Hi, Miss Bush. So, where I left off in my last vlog, Chris had just realized that his parents hadn't told him all there was to know about his father's involvement with the cracked cylinder heads. And after he talks to his father and confirms that it's because of him that the parts were shipped to the military despite their defaults, he's understandably angry. Keller keeps repeating that Larry never flew that kind of plane that the cylinders were put in. I didn't kill him. And tries to avoid answering Chris when he's persistent about, so you did do it to the other pilots. Keller says the reason he did it was because he didn't want the business to be ruined and he was making money for Chris and only thinking of him, which makes Chris even more upset because he was fighting in the war at the time. So even though he didn't know the pilots personally who died, they were still boys just like him fighting in the war, his fellow soldiers, and his father killed them. But after being by himself all night and trying to come up with reasons to make his father suffer, he realized that there really aren't any. That putting his father in jail isn't going to bring the dead pilots back. Keller knows that Chris has recognized this, and he vocalizes it for us by saying, nobody in that war did anything that wasn't for profit. Like, they were all trying to make money, and if I have to go to jail, then half the country's coming with me. And Chris is like, yes, I know. But when Keller asks why, he's still upset with him, then why am I so bad? And Chris replies with, I know you're no worse than most men, but I thought you were better. I never saw you as a man. I saw you as my father. Which actually brings me back to the first page of the play, because I think that when Arthur Miller said Joe Keller was a man among men, he was warning us, the audience, not to make the same mistake as Chris. Which reminds me of a John Green quote that states, what a treacherous thing to believe that a person is more than a person. There's so many examples of this in literature and in history in real life that show that you can't put people on pedestals and make them out to be heroes, because you'll be disappointed every time when you find out that they make mistakes just like everybody else, that they're only human. Annie then reveals a letter that Larry wrote to her the day he died, and Chris reads it out loud. In the letter, Larry tells how the papers just came in, so he's just found out about the deaths of these 21 pilots and that his father and Annie's father were convicted for it. And he's so angry and just in disbelief that they could do such a thing. The end of the letter reads, I'm going out on a mission in a few minutes. They'll probably report me missing. If they do, I want you to know that you mustn't wait for me. I tell you, Anne, if I had him here now, I could kill him. After reading Larry's letter, Mr. Keller says he'll feel better if he just spends the night in jail and turns himself in. Mother tries to dissuade him from this. She's like, Larry's your son. He wouldn't want you to do this. He would never tell you to do this. And Mr. Keller replies, I think to him they were all my sons. And I guess they were. So that's where the title comes in. And I think Keller realizes something then. And after he goes into the house to get his things, Chris says it to Mother. He says, there's a universe of people outside and you're responsible to it. That's an important thing to remember, that you aren't only accountable for what goes on inside your little bubble of existence, and that you can't contribute negatively to the rest of the world and not expect consequences from that to come back and hit you eventually. And Chris tells his mother that unless she knows that now, she threw away her son because that's why he died. And then you hear a gunshot from inside the house. So that completes my vlog series on All My Sons by Arthur Miller. I actually enjoyed this. I'm hoping it wasn't too dull to watch. And I will see you later. Goodbye.